If you come from the PC community, then you may know about a particular, let's just say, mostly factually incorrect video. This one, to be precise, how we build a $2,000 custom gaming PC by The Verge. The channel decided to make a video and hire what seems to be their least experienced PC building presenter to build a PC rig and make it as professional as possible. What follows is, aside from the first 2.5 minutes, a mess of a video both factually and, well, thermal pastily. We'll get there. I'd also like to point out that the video has its comments and likes and dislike ratio hidden as of recording, so I get the feeling that they know that some of the information is wrong and they're only doing it for the ad revenue. Considering the video's content, that's kinda dangerous, as people who aren't familiar with computers enough to build one won't know why those comments and likes are disabled unless those people dig deeper on the internet. I'll give credit for them name dropping the sites like PC Part Picker, as well as the various types of rigs people could have within the first 2 minutes of the video anyway, but you're not here for that. You're here for the screw-ups, the inconsistencies, and just the stuff that's just completely wrong. So let's go on and rip this video to shreds, shall we?
Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer.
That is called a back panel, not a brace. Just putting it out there.
So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose Corsair's 16GB Vengeance LED RAM for two main reasons. One, it has LEDs and we do like lights in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty fast RAM. It's 2666 megahertz, I believe, so it's pretty fast, and this motherboard supports that speed, which is most important.
Small question, why that RAM? I mean, I know you're going to say that it's for LEDs and because it's fast, but the stated speed that you said was 2666, when for like $20 more you could get the 3000 megahertz one, or the 3200 you want to spend a little bit more. So, considering what you're trying to build, an overkill PC that will run anything, I'm quite unsure as to why you chose this. This makes no sense. If you're going to go all out, then you may as well go all out.
Step 3, we're going to install the hard drive, or in this case, the NVMe SSD.
Did he just call an NVMe SSD a type of hard drive? Because it's an SSD, kind of two different things. Oh god, this is a terrible video, isn't it?
I chose this format of solid-state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wires or putting it in a separate part of the case and just getting really messy. This is from Kingston, and it's 480 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and swap it out.
Or you could have a much bigger hard drive. It's not uncommon for people to have an SSD, SATA SSD, and a 1TB hard drive for all their games and such. What you've done is you've artificially limited yourself to 480 gigabytes, and most PC gamers will know that 480 gigabytes is not that much, so I'm not sure why you've done that. It seems a bit pointless. This entire thing will make your computer clean, and you won't have any wires if that's the aesthetic you're going for, but it's not worth it, man.
Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. I chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked, and so it's a pretty easy installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors.
Better known as a PCIe 3 connector, so I don't know why you called it a gold connector. Also, this is confusing me. Who is this video designed for? Like, I'm sure it's not for PC enthusiasts, considering they know all this. And it's not for people who are new to PC gaming, because they wouldn't be building something like this unless they absolutely wanted to. So why are you using terminology that makes no sense?
Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system. I'm just going to pick the top one because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice.
You choose either the PCIe 2 or the PCIe 3 slot depending on the motherboard and socket and other things. You don't choose the one that's not coloured, because that's slower, generally speaking. The one that is coloured, normally blue to differentiate it, is way faster and normally useful for your graphics cards. It's got nothing to do with what's inside your motherboard already, unless you're a complete doofus and put in something in the other PCIe slots without thinking.
I just think it looks nice.
I'm not even going to dignify that reasoning with a response. That's... no. Just no.
Power supply time. I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply.
That's a tiny bit overkill for a power supply, even with a PC rig like this. 650 watts, 500 watts will do you just fine, and even if you're overclocking, that's still fine. 850 watts is not what you need. Not ever, unless you're running a server, in which case, carry on.
Because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again.
Okay, I retract that last statement, and I'm going to replace it with this. That's not how GPUs work. If ray tracing is what you're after, then sure, it will consume more power, but not to the extent that you need like 250 watts more than normal. 650 watts will still be enough.
And make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so that the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system.
Fun fact, a PC case is actually fairly well insulated despite it being metal. The idea of standoffs on a motherboard, which you didn't describe by the way, are designed to, not be in contact with the PC case. If you said that with the motherboard, then that's completely correct. With the power supply, that's completely incorrect because none of the power, or at least it shouldn't be, coming out of its own enclosure. Don't know why you said that. Also, insulating pads aren't really a thing.
So next step, we're going to install the CPU cooler. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while.
Just because it carries water and or lots of air does not make it a hose, it's tubing, just in case anyone was wondering. Small nitpick, but
Always be sure to try to place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space.
Not to be Captain Obvious, but a cooler that size would take up a lot of space. I'm not sure why you're surprised by that.
So next up, cables. Every power supply is going to come with a big bag of Velcro cables.
Not all power supplies will come with a Velcro bag of cables, because some power supplies have their cables put onto the power supply itself. What you have is a fully modular power supply, which means that you can take off cables that you don't need and put ones on that you do need. If you wanted 3 power cables for SATA SSDs or SATA hard drives, then you could put 3 on if you have 3 already. Power supplies aren't created the same way. I don't know if you know this or not.
In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable. We're just matching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching the 24-pin header to the power supply.
It would have been nice if you showed us which connection is connected to what part of the motherboard, but I don't think you want to do that. All I just got to see was you connecting it itself, not the actual connection. I'm not sure if that made any sense, but I'm going with it.
We're installing the CPU, the heart of the computer, or the brain, depending on how you look at it.
The brain. Definitely the brain.
We'll just toss that out of here. And now we have an exposed CPU holder, or rather slot.
Socket. It's called a CPU socket.
It makes it really useful if you want to install a Core i7 hexa-core CPU. Yeah, we've got one, and it's an 8th generation chip, and it's ready to go.
How big is the Verge's manhood? Just making sure. You okay there? Anything you want us to tell us? No? Okay, carry on.
And it supports overclocking.
At that price, it better.
So what having this little installer does for you is it's basically a brace that you can apply right to the CPU and light it up with the triangles that you'll see on the bottom left corners.
There are also triangles on the motherboard, right next to the CPU socket, or slot as you want to call it. You're missing a part there, buddy. Just to the left of you. I'm gonna put it back on.
Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neatly applied in a circle around it.
Or square, depending on the shape of the cooler, so no.
But it's usually not enough.
There would be a lot of lawsuits if it wasn't enough thermal paste, so yes, it's actually kind of enough. You can wipe it off if you want, and put your own thermal paste just in case you want to, but it's most definitely enough for first timers. That's kind of what it's there for.
Just to have a little bit extra.
What are you doing? Just stop it! No! Stop! Ugh. I'm gonna refer you to MSI's video. That's how you apply thermal paste. Don't do what he did, okay? That's just terrible. That's gonna seep into the motherboard, and in theory it can cause your PC to be actually run slower because it's being too cool, funnily enough. So congratulations on that.
To keep the cooler raised off the processor, but it's also going to be close enough to actually physically come in contact with it, like basically keep it cool.
as the name would imply.
So what's next? Well, you need a USB flash drive with your Windows installation media on it.
Or Linux. You're gonna skip to Windows. Okay, sure, why not?
And of course, a license key. So I plugged that up, installed Windows in a couple of minutes, installed a bunch of drivers, and now we have a fully functioning gaming PC ready to run some games.
Again, I have to ask, who is this designed for? Most PC gamers who are watching this video will know about this. You don't need to cover this.
So right now I'm playing League of Legends.
Because that's totally a game you want to play on a $2,000 PC. League of Legends, everybody.
But otherwise, like, this is pretty much what you would see me do on a gaming computer. Test stuff out, and hopefully have really high frame rates like I am right now. I'm averaging 120 FPS.
There would have to be a massive problem with your computer if you weren't averaging 120 FPS in League of Legends, considering what you've built. So that's not much of an achievement. Also, League of Legends is old as crap, so it's not really much of a benchmark, to be honest.
And that's only because I've actually locked the game to that frame rate, because I can get around 300 FPS playing League.
PC games tend to have optional caps, so people with FreeSync monitors or people who like VSync, then they can, cap the screen to 75Hz or to whatever their monitor's refresh rate is. Then there'll be no tearing. That's why they exist. Consoles have caps for entirely different reasons, but that's why they exist.
And I'll be able to play a lot of upcoming titles like Battlefield 5 and Cyberpunk 2077.
A lot of the games that you just mentioned will probably run perfectly fine on a, 4 times cheaper PC, give or take, which is what mine costed. Link in the description because, well, I have a manhood too, just putting it out there.
And of course now we also have a computer to test and benchmark games here at The Verge.
A completely overkill computer that doesn't representative of any of your audience's computers at home. So this video was pointless. Good job, Verge. Just take the video down. You don't need it.